A lot of people that are on the call this morning. Welcome everyone to our Leadership Development Program put on by Texas SHRM. I am Billy Wright. I am one of the co-directors for this program with Texas SHRM. My counterpart, Madi Perez. Madi, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We love having you.
Thank you, Madi. And I don't see Michelle yet on the call, or is
She's on
Michelle
the
here?
call.
Michelle? Hi,
Yes.
Michelle. Michelle is our fearless leader for Texas SHRM on the board.
Hi, good
Michelle,
morning, everyone.
there you go.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Welcome,
Thank
everyone.
you.
We're thrilled to have you, and you're going to really love this program. We've gotten great reviews over the past many years, and as you know, it's Pinnacle Award-winning program. So, looking forward to having you all on board.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And then we have Rick Robinson. So Rick, this is your fifth year, has been facilitating this program for us since 2022, I believe, Rick. Is that correct?
If you say so, sounds right to me.
Yeah, so this is our fifth year going into, as Michelle said, this Pinnacle Award-winning leadership development program for our chapters. It is a tremendous and excellent program. It's a 6-month program, and you received information from Madi about the program and from our office, Texas SHRM. Naomi is on the call, but she is here representing Texas SHRM. You will not see her on this call, but she is here to answer any questions. So I want to start out by saying if you have any kind of technical issues or anything like that, you can drop drop a note in the chat for Naomi, or you can send her a quick email, and that is info@texasSHRM.org. Is that correct, Naomi?
That's correct.
All right, thank you so very much. So let's get this party started, y'all. So first things first, this program is 6 months long. It starts today as our kickoff, and our last session is September 17th. In your email, you received a lot of information from Madi and from the office, but I want to go over just a couple things with you, just to make sure that we're all tracking and clicking on one accord. The other thing too is because there's so many of us on this call, we normally do introductions, but I would like to ask you if you would drop your name and your chapter affiliation, or if you're a coach, into the chat box so people can see who you are and where you are. And if you want to drop your LinkedIn information in there, you're certainly welcome to do that too. I encourage you, or we encourage you, to reach out to each other during this program for support, to talk things through, and just for connections, if for nothing else. A couple things to go over with you is that these
Billy,
webinars, yes,
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat what you
yeah,
wanted to include in the chat?
they can include their name, their chapter affiliation, and their LinkedIn profile if you like, your email if you like, and also if you're a coach, you can put that information in there also if you're not affiliated with the chapter. Thank you so much, Marty. As I was saying, the webinars are recorded. So the office will send out the recording after the training today. And so you can go back and watch it for any notes or anything like that. It's highly encouraged that you attend the webinars. However, if you're not able to attend them, they are recorded, and there is a transcript with the webinars. The guided group discussions are a little bit differently. So they're held the third Thursday of the month. So there's a week in between the webinar, and then the last week on that third Thursday is the guided group discussions, which we highly encourage you to attend as well. So there's a little caveat with the guided group discussions and the coaching sessions. So between this session, the webinar, and the guided group discussions, there's a week in between where we encourage you to meet with your coach. So participants, if you have not done so, please reach out to your assigned coach to introduce yourself, because it is your responsibility to make sure that you engage with your coach and set up your monthly coaching sessions. You're only required to meet once a month for an hour. But if you and your coach want to meet more than that, that's totally fine to do that also. I had some participants in the class when I was a coach. We met sometimes 2 and 3 times a month, just depending on what comes up. But you're only required to meet at least once a month with your coach, and preferably between the webinar and the guided group discussions. Now, there's some caveats behind that. So if you miss more than 2 of the guided group discussions, or the coaching sessions, you will not be eligible to participate in the graduation ceremony in October. And that's held at Fort Worth, and it coincides with Southwest. So keep that in mind. If you're not able to attend, if you miss more than 2 group guided discussions or 2 coaching sessions, you're not eligible to participate in the graduation. Doesn't mean that you won't receive, recognition for the program, but it means that you won't be able to attend in person the graduation in October. So I want to make sure that you all are aware of that. If you have any questions about anything, about the webinar, about the training, or anything like that, please reach out to either me, Rick, or Marty. We're here to help you make sure that you're successful throughout this program. The other thing that I want to address is about the use of AI for transcription purposes here. Everyone uses AI. We all know that. But one thing I want to point out is that because this is proprietary content, it is not owned by us. It is owned by Huron Associates. We ask that you not turn on AI transcription services unless you need it for a reasonable accommodation. And if you need it for a reasonable accommodation, please reach out to either me or Marty so we can make sure that we address that appropriately. So, any questions thus far before I pass it off to Marty, to Rick? Any questions?
Miss Billy, you had the chat going on. So many LinkedIn profiles shared as well.
Yes. All right, Rick.
I think,
Then I will
yes,
pass it off to you. Thank you, Marty.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you, Billy and Marty. Thank you all for being here. I am going to have to stop the share real quick if I can figure out how to do that. Because I hit the wrong button and now I've got I'm not seeing what I expect to see. So just you guys tell me, are we still looking at the 6 monthly cycles program overview?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right. Let's see. How do we? So I was trying to see everybody and I could see everybody, but now I can't see my screen. Let's see. And now it won't advance. All right. So now are you seeing the opening slide? What is leadership? All right. Are we at the agenda? Is that what everybody's seeing?
I
Okay.
can see that.
Outstanding. All right. I'm going to quit hitting buttons. I'm reminding myself of my wife. She calls me the IT director of the house, and she'll say, "My computer's not working." I said, "Well, what button did you hit?" And she says, "All of them." So, um, so here's the agenda for this morning. This session is largely about, what is leadership and why is it important. We've done the introduction. We're going to talk about why leadership's important and the different roles we've identified that a leader must fill within every organization. We'll talk a little bit about the work of James Citron and his dynamic path model. That is the path from champion to leader. And then we'll introduce two of the two tools, if you will, the building the case for change and use of time index. The building the case for change is largely just a personal vision for your span of control. So the first thing we need to do as a leader is figure out where we're going to go and what our vision is. And the second thing is to do an analysis of how we're spending our time and to make sure that we're focused on those things that are going to enable us to get where we want to go. At the end of the session, after about a little over an hour, we are going to do a deep dive tutorial on the application assignments. I'm going to go through each of the two tools and I'm going to explain what I'm looking for and give you guys some pointers. So that will be the structure for today. We will ask questions along the way. I did warn Naomi that I'd added a couple of slides because I'm a tinkerer and I got to add stuff here or there. But this is a slide, this is a concept that I thought was really interesting. Because in leadership development, we talk a lot about, what are the tools a leader needs and what does a leader need and blah, blah, blah. But what do the followers need? So the Gallup organization, some of the same folks that did Now Discover Your Strengths and the Strength Finder assessment, did a study to determine what do followers need from their leaders. And it came to these four things. These are the things the people that are going to follow you need from you. And those four things are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. So as we go through the program and as we go through the day this morning, just ask yourself and kind of think about how do the tools we're going to introduce, how do these things help us build trust, compassion, stability, and hope? And I will refer to that as we go through, as you can imagine. So the first thing we're talking about, why is leadership important? And the first thing I like to ask is leadership important? Why does it matter? And our view is that leadership matters because every organization comes into existence to fill a need, to fill a niche, and it has this initial set of goals you're trying to achieve. And we call those the Horizon One set of goals, or H1. And you can see in this squiggly line, they've got growth and then they've got a little peak. So this is the initial set of goals you're trying to achieve. And you work really, really hard and you get there and you do your little happy dance and you say, we made it. But then you look up and you say, oh, wait, there's more. However you measure success, there's always more. There's better results you could get in the future. So just chat at me, if you will. Do you guys want more? Do you want better results in the future? It's a yes or no. Yes, 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 absolutely, of course. Okay. What is it that you suppose is the number one determining factor that is going to determine whether you can make it from Horizon One to Horizon Two? What is the most important? Grit, Marty, very good. Development, yeah, interesting. It's on the it's on the slide. Don't overcomplicate it. Perseverance. It's actually, from our view, it's leadership. Because you can get to Horizon One on the back of a few people working really hard, but it gets to the point they can't work any harder. And most of us have been in that situation where we're asked to do more, and it's like there's nothing left in the tank. And you add more people and you get diminishing returns because the people you add aren't as good as the people you had. In order to get to Horizon Two, then you have to replicate yourself and get results through other people. And that's in large part what leadership's all about, is getting other people to be as good at whatever it is as you are. So we're going to break this down in a little bit more detail. The Horizon One set of goals, we call those your current results. And the things on the results side of the equation are the things you measure, the end of process things. So in a for-profit business, it's revenue, it's expenses, it's net income. In your chapter, it's number of people at your monthly luncheons, it's member engagement, it's the membership number of people in your membership. These are all end of process things. And those are the things we call results. Your results are being driven by the way you're performing. I know, not earth-shattering model, but the things on your performance side of the equation are your people, processes, technology, structure, controls, culture, and organizational capability. All of those things taken together deliver the results you're getting today. And you guys all said you wanted more. So in the future, you want those results to be better. You want more revenue, more net income, more people at your luncheons, more higher membership numbers. And the first question I have is, can you, oops, I just gave it away. Can you keep the performance side of the equation the same and expect to get better results in the future? And the answer is not at all. Thanks, Adele. Yeah, so no, what does that sound like? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result? Insanity. Yeah. So it's largely attributed to Einstein's definition of insanity, right? To keep doing the same thing over and over. Interestingly, I just read an article recently that said that Einstein never actually said that. But what he did say that they got that from, I like even better. What he actually said was no problem has ever been solved by the same mindset that created it. So if you want to get better results in the future, you're going to have to do something different. And a large part of what you got to do is have a different mindset about it. So if I want better results in the future, I'm going to have to change something on the performance side of the equation. Now, we could talk about this for the rest of the session and probably for the rest of the day if we wanted to, because this model explains a lot of things. It explains every sale that's either been made or not made from the history of mankind. It explains why people resist change. It explains a whole lot. But we're not going to spend the whole day on this, so don't worry. I'm just going to point out a couple of key things that I think are really relevant. So you notice on the bottom, the current performance to current results, the arrow goes from performance to results, which means the things you're doing today, your people working through processes using technology are delivering the results you're getting today. But the arrow goes on the top line the other direction, goes from the results to the performance. So somebody let me know if you've got any uh, idea why that arrow would go the other way. You can either shout it out or chat it. Why would the arrow go the opposite direction on the top line? Okay, so this is my first opportunity to let you know that when I ask a lot of questions, none of which really are ever hypothetical, so or rhetorical, excuse me. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to encourage everybody to get out of your comfort zone. We'll talk about the importance of being uncomfortable here in a minute, but just give me why do you think? What possible reason could it be to have the arrow go from results to performance?
Well, because if you're getting good results, you're gonna want to continue that performance that gets you those good results.
Excellent. Yeah. Anybody else have an idea? I honestly don't know. Marty. All right. So I'm probably asking the question in a bad way because Marty's seen this at least 3 times. So here's the reason. Here's the thing. So as I said on the bottom row, um, your performance is delivering the results. It goes the other way because on the top row, you have to figure out what you want those results to be first before you can know what you need to change. This is one of the reasons people resist change. I think it's true that they do, but I think people are smart enough to know there's no growth without change. By the same token, there's no growth without pain. If I'm going to get in better shape and work out and go to the gym, and if I'm not sore the day after, I probably didn't do myself much good. If I don't get sweaty, I probably didn't push myself hard enough. It's not going to get me any benefit. No one grows in their comfort zone. And that's what a lot of times what we call this bottom row is this is people working through processes using technology they're comfortable with. This is your comfort zone. So if I'm going to ask people to do something different and work on this top line and use different technology and use different processes and learn new things, I'm going to ask them to be a little bit uncomfortable. Right. So how many, many of us woke up this morning saying, I'm going to see how uncomfortable I can make myself today. So part of being a leader is embracing that discomfort or that pain, because um, you you're going to have to grow, and you can't grow without some level of discomfort. I heard somebody say, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what they're built for. So you have to get out and try something new. So you got to figure out where you want to go first, and then you can talk about what needs to change. Part of the reason people resist that change is that we don't talk about what the results we're trying to achieve. We talk about what we want them to do differently. We say, here's a new software package that we want you to use instead of the old one. Or here's a new process we want you to follow instead of the old one that you're comfortable with. Or here's something new we want you to learn. And if I try to get people to change by talking about the performance side of the equation first, all they hear is, here's what I'm doing wrong. And I don't know why you're making the change. I don't see the benefit. So for people to be willing to be uncomfortable, they certain things have to be true. Number one is they have to know what we're trying to achieve or the why. Number two, they have to believe it's possible. And number three, they have to want it. You have to create an environment or a future result that everybody's attracted to. And if you can do that, if we can do that as leaders, they'll help us get there. I don't have to drag them along. And I have a stupid little story that I'm going to use to illustrate this. So, what if I were to say to you, we're going to shut this thing down right now. And I want you all, well, I'm assuming a lot of you are at home, but if you're not at home, I want you to go home and pack a bag and set your alarm for 4:30 a.m. What is your reaction to that? Just chat at me, just your initial gut feeling about that. All right, Marty, where are we going? Where are we going? You can always, this is a great psychological test. Sarah's like, nah, I'm with Sarah. I'm like, this is a little creepy. No, I ain't going. And then you got the Jennifers of the world that are like, oh, that's fun. Where are we going? So
5:30 is
here's,
more reasonable.
well, let me say this. What if I were to paint this future results? Because what I just did is talk about things I want you to do differently in your performance. If I were to say, look, I've got another client that's got a chain of hotels in Hawaii, and we've worked it out so we can all go to Kauai. And we're going to, let's say we'll fly out tomorrow, Friday. You'll have the weekend on Kauai. On Monday, we're going to cover the whole program in one day, and you'll have the rest of the week to explore the island. And you can bring your spouse, significant other, your kids, whoever you'd like. And we've worked it out with your employer. It's not going to count against your PTO. All expenses paid. Now, who wants to go? Yeah, Jenny's like, I'm in, right? I have created a vision for next week that everybody wants to be a part of. So now I can ask you, I don't have to tell you what you got to do. I said, what do you got? I can ask you, what do you think we need to do in order to make that a reality? And you can tell me, well, I got to go pack a bag. I got to set an early alarm because the flight leaves early. I got to get a dog sitter. I got to whatever, house sitter, whatever you need to do. You'll think of things that I didn't think of. And that's the beauty of change management. If I can create this future result where people see the value, I've raised this perception of value of the activity, they will help you get there. You'll get active support. So that's what this model, those are a couple of things this model explains. And I mentioned that it explains, every sale that's made or not made. It's the same thing, right? If I'm going to part with my money, that's painful. And the more money you want from me, the more painful it is. So if I'm going to part with that money, I have to believe that the future is good enough that it outweighs the pain of parting with that money. And if it's not better enough, I'm not buying. So I don't want to spend too much time on the model, but I think it's very useful and we'll look at it again towards the end of this morning, and we're going to revisit this model until you guys can teach it to me. So you might want to review it because it can get pretty uncomfortable with the silence if nobody responds. So we've established that leadership's important, and leadership's important because you want more. You want better results in the future than you're getting today, and that's why leadership matters. If you just want to stay in the same place, you don't really need strong leadership. You'll just keep doing what you're doing. You keep getting what you're getting. When times are good, the economy's good, you might get a little more. When it's bad, you might get a little less. But you're just taking what they give you. Keep doing what you're doing. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If you want better results in the future, you have to intentionally go out there and get new people or people with different skills or new processes or new technology in order to deliver those results. But first, you have to figure out where you want to go before you can determine what needs to be changed. this lack of a clear vision is a reason why we get into a lot of arguments about whether a new initiative is a good idea or not. Usually they are, but are they a good idea for me? Not every good idea is good for you. Not every good idea for a chapter is a good idea for every chapter. It all depends on what their vision is. So that's why leadership matters. But what is it? So we've identified, as we mentioned, three roles of leadership. The first one is to set direction. Setting direction, what we've talked about, that's that vision, that's that future, what are we, results that we want. That's setting direction. It's all about strategic planning and strategy. Once I have a direction, I have strategies developed, then I need to execute them. I've heard it said, attributed to Ben Franklin, that the vision without the ability to execute it is an hallucination. So if I've told you you're insane, and now I'm going to tell you we've all hallucinated as well, I have to be able to execute my strategies. Now if that is a Ben Franklin quote, which I'm not 100% sure about, but if it is, it's my second favorite, right after beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. The third role of leadership is to engage and inspire people. And notice this doesn't say motivate, because people are inherently motivated. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can see what they're motivated to do and what need they're motivated to fill. So I don't need to motivate them. The word motivation has the same root as motor, locomotive, motion. If they're moving, they're motivated. If they show up to work, they're motivated. What I need to do is engage them. And what I need to engage them with is to be relevant to this top line. I need to create a future that is attractive enough and then invite them to be relevant to that. That's what I want them engaged with. That's what I want them inspired by. And the more I can create an inspirational vision of the future or direction for my organization, the more engaged your employee base is. In the last 10 years, we've talked a lot about employee engagement. And the first question I always ask is, what are you giving them to engage with? And a lot of time, there's not a whole lot. So setting direction is all about strategy. And that comes first. You can't have a relevant conversation about any of the rest of it until you have an idea of where you want to go. Execution is all about the structure and infrastructure in your organization and your organization's controls. And these controls aren't merely financial controls. They're any way you measure or give feedback to people on how well we're doing in the direction we've set. Are we headed in the right direction? Are we making the progress we want to make? So it's KPIs, dashboards, measurement systems, employee reviews, annual reviews, those kinds of things are all part of the controls bucket. Engaging and inspiring people, it's all about the culture we create and our organization's capability. But it all starts with strategy. And I'm going to use a little silly story, or a little story about my sister, and something as simple as structure. So my sister used to be the client manager for a corporate relocation company, and her client was ExxonMobil. So she ran the whole ExxonMobil division. You can imagine ExxonMobil moves a lot of people, relocates them all around the world. So she had a pretty large organization. And she called me one day and said, we're thinking about moving from 3 managers in the department down to 2 managers. And I said, okay, why are you calling me? She goes, you know a little bit about HR and about structure and this kind of stuff. I said, yeah, I know a little bit. I said, I tell you what, buy me lunch. I'll tell you what I think. So I picked a nice restaurant for lunch, and I waited till after we ordered, and I said, show me what you got. And she put 2 org charts in front of me. One had 3 managers on it. The other had 2 managers on it. And her question to me was, do you think it will work? And I had to give her the standard consultant answer. So somebody shout at me what the standard consultant answer is. Doesn't matter what the question is, the answer is always the same. It depends. Excellent. Way to go. So if you're a good consultant, you actually know what it depends on. So will it work? It depends. What does it depend on? What's your strategy? What business problem are you trying to solve with making this move? And she said, well, we really haven't talked about that. So my response was, go for it. I mean, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter what your structure or your car looks like per se. So Oops, sorry. So it all starts with strategy. I can't even structure follows strategy. I can't have a relevant conversation about if I have the right org structure or infrastructure or anything until I know what my strategy is. Are you measuring the right things? Do you have the right controls in place? Are your KPI and dashboards right? I don't know. What's your strategy? Do you have the right culture in your organization? It depends. Do you think Walmart and Nordstrom have the same culture? Absolutely not. Which culture do you think is better? Most people would pick Nordstrom. But if you take Nordstrom's culture and put it in a Walmart, they will fail. By the same token, you put a Walmart culture in a Nordstrom, it's going to fail. Their culture is right for their strategy. Their culture is geared to deliver what they want to deliver in the way they want to deliver it. So it all starts with strategy. Do you have the right capabilities in your organization? I don't know. Where are you going? What's your strategies? What are you trying to achieve in the future? What are those future results that you're trying to achieve? So strategy comes first. It's not more important because you have to have all of it, but you got to have it first before you can even talk about the rest. So we started this whole conversation by saying leadership's what's going to get you from horizon one to horizon two. And what really needs to change within this structure is going to be leadership led and leadership driven, and leadership behavior is one of the big things that's got to have change, and adding more leaders in the organization, getting results through other people. That's the big change on the performance side of the equation to get to those future results. So hopefully all that resonates. Uh, Now, this next thing we're going to look at is the champion to leader model, and this comes from the work from James Citron. And I have to apologize to everybody that I worked with prior to 2021 when we discovered James's work. And I'm going to tell a little story that illustrates why. And this is a story about my friend Sean. Sean was my best friend from the Peace Corps, and I was in Fiji in the Peace Corps right out of college. My degrees were in accounting and finance. And Sean worked with me, and we both taught high school in the Peace Corps. And he said, "Look, I think he got into training and development. That was his industry, and I didn't even know that existed or that was a job when I was going to college. And I went to A&M. You mean you go to be an engineer or whatever, and I couldn't do engineering, so I did accounting and finance. And he talked me into trying out this training gig. And so he and I worked together. He was the supervisor. So he had five guys that were reporting to him. So Sean goes down to a conference in New Orleans, and he's riding the bus from the airport to the hotel. And he's a friendly guy. So he strikes up a conversation with this guy. He's like, "So what do you do?" And the guy told him, "I'm the senior vice president of sales for Aflac." And this was 25 years ago, before the duck and before everybody knew what Aflac was and what they did. And Sean said, "I think I've heard of that. So what?" It has something to do with insurance. So what's your differentiator and what's your value proposition? He started asking all of these trainery type questions. And the guy just looked at him and he says, "Look, I don't think you heard me. I'm the senior vice president of sales for Aflac. My customers are the 12 people that work for me and their families. And my job is to make sure they're successful and that they get what they want out of life. Those people take care of all that stuff you're talking about. I make sure what they need, they have what they need in order to get it." And the way my friend Sean describes it is, because Sean was a supervisor. He had people reporting to him, but like a lot of professional services organizations, he still had billable hour requirements. And he was still pulling in the parking lot every morning saying, "I hope those guys leave me alone so I can get my work done." And what he realized is his mindset needed to shift, because he needed to view those people as his primary job, and getting them to be as good as he was at developing training and development. So hopefully that kind of seeks through. Somebody, tell me how that relates to you. Does everybody get that kind of mindset, mind-blowing, kind of different view? Is anybody still driving into work saying, "I hope these people leave me alone so I can get my job done"? Yeah. Shanta, with servant leadership. Absolutely. I think all real leadership is servant leadership, because the people that use your work product as a leader are the people that work for you, not the people you work for. So that was his aha moment. For me, I had what is going to be a common story for a lot of people. And that is, I started as an individual contributor. As I mentioned, my degrees are in accounting and finance. When I got out of the Peace Corps, I got a job as an accountant, and I got so good at it. I was the best at doing spreadsheets. And this is back in the day of Lotus 1-2-3. You had to write macros for everything. I mean, it's not like today with Excel and a point and click world. And I became a champion. That's what Centrid calls a champion. When you start off and you become the best at something. And those are the people that we largely promote to a leadership position. I was so good at spreadsheets, they gave me 15 people to manage. And they gave me a copy of the 1 Minute Manager. They patted me on the back and said, let us know if you need any help. And I'm like, I was a deer in the headlights. I don't know what help to ask for. I don't know what I'm doing. So, like a lot of people, you kind of fake it till you make it. And hopefully you had a good mentor or somebody that you could model behavior after that was positive. Because eventually you're going to leave a legacy. And my options were, if I stay in champion mode, my legacy would be, man, that Rick Robinson, I used to work with him. He could do a spreadsheet. Oh my gosh, a thing of beauty. He was the best I've ever seen at spreadsheets. Or I could get into leadership mode, leadership mindset, and my legacy could be, yeah, I used to work for Rick. He's the one that believed in me before I believed in myself. He's the one that showed me what I could become. And he's responsible for who I am today. Because in large part, as leaders, that's what we get to do for people. We get to recognize and encourage and help them become what they can become. Because every successful person I've ever met had somebody who believed in them before they believed in themselves. And that's what we can do for people as leaders. Okay. If you're in champion mode, it's all about how do I do more? How do I do it better? How to faster? And in leadership mode, it's not necessarily more, but we do things differently. And this says leadership and systems, because in a large part, as a leader, I'm a systems engineer. I'm designing an environment that's going to enable people to be successful. And we're going to give you tools for doing that. So your number one role as in leader, when you're in leader mode, is to create champion performance in others. And you do that by mastery of a new mindset, skill set, group disciplines, frameworks, etc. Now, most of us don't have the luxury to be a full-time leader. So we've got a foot in the champion mode and a foot in the leadership mode. Does that sound familiar to everybody? Shout at me if that does. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So most of us, like maybe if we're lucky, it's 50-50. Sometimes I'm 20%. The important thing from this model is to be in the right mindset, depending on what I'm having to do at any one time. So be cognizant and be intentional about what mindset you're in. So when I'm in champion mode, I'm nose down doing my spreadsheets. When I'm in leader mode, I relax, I listen, I actively listen to understand, and I seek to create champion behavior in others. And I want other people to be as good or better than I am. So this one I love this because I wish I had $1 for every time I said the stuff on the left. I can do it better. I can do it faster. If I do it, it's right. I don't have time to train people. You probably caught yourself saying all of this stuff. It's easier to do it myself. And we say these things for a very specific reason. And that reason is it's true. You're the champion. You can do it better. You can do it faster. It's going to take an investment of your time to create champion behavior in others and to develop skills in others. When you're in leadership mindset and leadership mode, you realize that mistakes are the way people learn, and it's a teachable moment. It's not a bad thing. It's a positive because now somebody can learn something if I take the time to teach them. So when my daughter was 3 or 4 years old, she wanted a big girl bed. So we went out and bought it and let her pick it out. And she picked out a Thomas the Tank Engine bed. And she was so excited about it. She wanted to help me put it together. So I had an option. I had an opportunity, I had an option. My options were I could do it myself and it would be right and I could get on to my next task. Or I could work with her and let her do it and let her work with me and make mistakes. And it's going to take an ungodly amount of time. I'm probably going to have to take it apart and redo it when we're done. And I am ashamed to say, I gave her a screwdriver. I said, well, you want to help hold this? And I put the bed together. And she learned nothing. After about 10 minutes, she threw the screwdriver on the floor and she goes, this isn't helping. So you got to get in the mindset that it's you slow down. They're not going to be as fast as you, but the goal of a leader is for you to take everybody with you. You need everybody to get there together. Can you get there faster? Sure, but you're going to be standing by yourself, waiting, wondering where everybody is. So you need to be bringing them along. So I'm not going to read all of this to you. This is quite the eye chart, but I'm going to give you a minute just to kind of look through it because these are the symptoms of an organization that is being led from champion mode. Organizations being led from champion mode. So just give me a specific one or a number of them that you recognize that resonate with you.
The lack of trust.
Lack of trust. Excellent.
We're one good hire away
One
from
good hire way. Oh man,
from
that's
things
one of my
turning
favorites.
around.
Yeah. I just can't find good people. I got to tell you, if you got a job, you keep plugging people in and they keep failing, look at the job. It's probably not the people. KPIs are operational and lagging. We're not being proactive. Excellent. Yeah. So we've all recognized this. Now we can diagnose it. We can say we're leading from champion mode. Our leaders need to get the right mindset and recognize that they need to create champions in others. And some of them are still trying to meet that esteem need from Maslow, and they're going to struggle with that because they want to be the best. And they don't want to be the best at leadership because they don't know how to do that yet. But they can be the best at doing spreadsheets. All right, I'm off my soapbox. The kind of things they say is that champions win games, but leadership and systems win champions, and they do it consistently because it becomes repetitive if I can get the systems in place. So that leads us to our first insight moment, which I think Billy is going to present for us. In these programs, we'll stop a couple of times in each session so you can hear somebody besides me and get some insight from them as well. So, Billy, if you want to take it away.
I will. Thank you so very much, Rick. I hope you all gleaned a lot from this very first part that Rick was sharing us about leadership. And one thing I want you all to focus on when I think about an insight moment is that we're all leaders here. And we all have someone, and Rick talked about his, but we all have someone where we said, think about the best leader you ever had and what made them the best leader you ever had. So thinking about that for yourself, what is it about you that you say, this is going to make me the best leader for someone else? As leaders also, whether or not you're leading people in your organization or you're leading people in your chapter, you really have to think about from where you sit as a leader, how are you making the people that you're leading, what are you doing to make sure that they are successful in their role as part of your chapter, part of the board, even for your members, or for the teams that you're leading? What are the things that you're thinking about that will help make them successful? I'm a firm believer that as a leader, my number one job should always be to ensure the success of every employee, whether or not they're on my team or not, because those are the things that employees need to make sure that they are successful. One thing I want to share with you all when we're talking about this insight moment, and just back from the part that Rick just covered about being a champion in your organization. our leadership development team, we have a leadership development coach. And one of the things that she said to our team was that she says, you have a culture of niceness. And so the team was like, okay, so what's wrong with that? Here's what's wrong with that. You know, that list that Rick just showed with all these things, you know, what's pointing out to you, reactive, proactive, I versus we, and all these other things. When you have a culture of niceness, you don't hold people accountable because you want to be viewed as nice. I have this saying that, you know, it's better to be kind than nice, but it's also better to be respected than nice. People will respect you by how you treat them, by how you lead them, and how you also to provide them with what they need to be successful. You know, everybody, yes, we're all nice. We want to be nice to people, but the kindness piece is also making sure that you are accountable, that people are held accountable. So there's quite a difference of it, because people who doesn't want to be liked, right? Everybody wants to be liked. But as a leader, you have to make sure that you are holding the line. You're holding firm with that. And so when our leadership development coach told us that we had a culture of niceness, it really was like throwing cold water in the face of our executive leadership team. And there are 10 of us, because that is how this organization historically has operated. When I came into this role, I apologize, y'all, cedar fever. When I came into this role with my current organization, there wasn't any employees in the 10-year history of this organization that had any type of performance management in their file. None. So everybody was 100% productive. You all know as leaders, that is not the case. So when you create a culture of niceness, you lack you're missing the accountability piece. So think about what that does to your team downstream when they see that, because you set the bar this high or this low, however you want to look at it. So now employees know that I can go up to at least here and I won't get in trouble for it. And so when we had to go back and just really take an inside look and look deep down within, and let me tell y'all, it was not easy, because that was going to require that we change some things about how we lead from the executive level in our organization, which meant we were going to have to change some things about ourselves individually. And that was the hardest part. Rick talked about the change, and he's going to talk, I believe, a little bit more about that. But when you think about change in an organization and how you adapt to it, you're part of that change as a leader, and people are looking to you for that. And so if there's a roadblock for you, you're going to create the same roadblock for the employees. You can't lead change initiatives if you yourself don't believe in the change. And so we had to really grasp around our mindset about how are we going to deal with this, because it's really going to have to require that we change how we lead, our mindset. And that was going to require a change in us personally. That was the hardest part about that, because now we're having to shift our culture from one of being of niceness, as our coach said, to one of accountability. And so that is going to be a huge, huge shift for this organization. So before Rick comes back on, I want to leave you all with something that I gleaned from a leadership development training many, many years ago. And I use it to this day because it's a great reminder for me. And you can write this down if you haven't heard it before. But it's E plus R equals O. The E stands for the event, the R stands for the response or reaction, and the O stands for outcome. So the E, the event, is going to happen. Train is going to leave the station no matter what. Leadership has already said, this is the thing we're going to do, we're going to do it. The R, the response and reaction, that's you. It's how you respond and react to that event or that change initiative that's going to determine the outcome for you. Because the organization has an intended outcome and desire. That O is going to stay the same for them, because that's their intended. We're going to create this event because our intended outcome is this. But the outcome for you is going to be determined on how you respond or react to that event. And keep in mind also too, as a leader, people are looking at you for that. How are you going to respond and react to that? You know, champion versus leader. Are you going to be over here, culture of nice? Or are you going to be over here, culture of accountability? Then how you're going to hold not just your people that you lead accountable, but how you're also going to hold yourself accountable for those things that are happening. So that's my insight moment on some things that have happened to me personally in my work environment today. I have many more stories, but Rick is back on the call. But if you all need any information from me or how things are going for me or how I can help you with that, I'm happy to provide some guidance in that space. So
Out-
Rick, I will turn it back
Outstanding,
over to
Billy.
you.
Thank you. I love that. It's interesting, and I love that you talked about the difference between being nice and being kind. I was uh, I was doom scrolling the other day. And I came across a video of Simon Sinek interviewing Trevor Noah. And that's exactly what they were talking about. You could find it out there. It is genius. But what Trevor Noah was saying, he goes, he finds Scandinavian people to be very kind, but they're not very nice. And the way he explained it was, let's say you have some smudge on your face, some soot or something. We are so nice, we won't say anything about it. That's nice because I don't want you to feel bad, but it's not very kind because I'm going to let you walk around all day like that. So that's how and we always say, clear is kind. So we'll talk later about, radical candor and about, making sure that your point gets across, but you being clear is kind. So that, because that helps people. As I tell my daughter constantly, nobody gets better without feedback. So you got to take it in the spirit in which it's intended and to help you get better. Just to put a bow on the James Citron model, what I want you to think about is, where are you on this continuum? Where we've already said you guys are probably have 1 foot champion mode, 1 foot in the leadership and systems mode, and you constantly have to change hats. Just be cognizant and intentional about what hat you're wearing and figure out what your personal goals, what role do you play today, and where do you want to be? What do you want people to say about you at the end of your career? What do you want your legacy to be? Do you want to be the best spreadsheet developer that ever lived? Or do you want to, um, be the person that helps somebody develop into something more than what they are today? Do you want to be the one that believes in them before they believe in themselves? So, somebody put in the chat, it's James Citron, and it's on the first slide of that model. So, building the case for change. Building the case for change. So, when we talk about, uh, setting that vision and establishing that for people, that's setting the groundwork for all the changes that are going to come later. But I have to first communicate what the purpose of the change is, and that is your vision. So this is a little bit different view of the model. So what you're doing now is giving you what you're getting now. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. So if I keep the performance side of the equation the same, my results are going to stay the same. We said we want better results in the future, so that's going to necessitate some sort of performance change. And that performance change is going to be something about the structure, controls, culture, or capability in my organization. Strategy is determining what the results are. So our first step is to determine what that top right bubble looks like. What do you want the vision to be in the future? That is building the case for change. That's starting to lay the groundwork for it. Now, I apologize to the coaches. I'll give you some talking points on it, but I've changed the exercise a little bit because we were overcomplicating it, in my opinion. So I've simplified it, and we'll go through it here in a minute. But this is going to be simply determine your vision for the future, for your span of control. Next module, we'll talk about how do you do a full-blown strategic plan for your business or your chapter. This is simply for you, what you can control. So when you do the exercise, I don't want you to do the whole company or anything outside your control, because I want you to focus on those things that you want to be different in the future. Now, when we get around to looking at changing these things on the left-hand side, it's going to require people to do something a little different. And change management boils down to this 2x2. It's very simple. When people are asked to change, they're going to weigh the perceived value. So what do they perceive the value of the change to be with how much it costs them? Or and that's also a perception. What does it cost me? And if they perceive the value to be low and the cost to them is high, as you imagine, I'm going to resist that. If they perceive the value is low and the cost is low, you get a meh, okay, go ahead, whatever. I'm not, this doesn't really affect me. If however, I can raise this through change management, raise the perception of value. So the perception of the value is high, you're going to get active support. That's the trip to Hawaii. So the first step is to raise that perception of value. Because if I can get above this line and reduce the cost, I'm going to get active support. Worst case scenario, the cost is still perceived by them to be high. And in those cases, you're going to get schizophrenic behavior. And so every day they come in, and if the value outweighs the cost, then you get support. And then if the cost outweighs the value that day, then they're going to be resistant. So you can raise the perception of value and then start to at least acknowledge. A lot of times, all you have to do is acknowledge the personal cost. So as I mentioned, I used to be really good at spreadsheets, and we did Lotus 1, 2, 3. Now, somebody put in the chat that they remember Lotus 1, 2, 3. Most of you are probably too young. Oh, I'm sorry, Billy. I didn't mean to call you out. But for those that aren't familiar, Lotus 1, 2, 3 was a spreadsheet program that predated Excel, and it didn't give you anything. When you open it up, it was a bunch of cells or grid, just a grid on your screen with a blinking cursor that mocked you, because you couldn't do anything unless you knew how to use it and knew how to write macros, and you had to write macros to do anything and had to write all your formulas, etc. So Lotus 1, 2, 3 was pretty difficult, and I was the macro king in my organization. I was the champion. And one day we went to Excel. Now, everybody used to come to me and ask me, can you write this macro for me? You can write that macro for me. And I'm ashamed to admit, I was like the IT guy on Saturday Night Live. It was like I'd do a big, heavy sigh and say, okay, I guess I'll do your work and my work too. But secretly, I loved being the macro king. I loved that I had status in my organization. And when we went to Excel, nobody needed that anymore. I had a skill that was no longer value. And in my perception, the cost of that was extremely high. Now, did they make my job easier? Yeah. Did I like it? No. I resisted that change because I was losing status. And it took me a while to realize why it upset me. And it's simply because I had a valuable skill that wasn't valuable anymore. So as you're making changes in your organization, recognize those people that have institutional knowledge. And if you make things easier, people might not need them as much. So they're going to view that change as high cost to them because they're losing their status within the organization. So this is what change management is all about. I'm going to raise the perceived value and try to at least acknowledge or lower the personal cost. So shout at me if that resonates. If tell me yes or no. Have you ever made somebody's job easier and they got pissed off about it, or they found a workaround so that they could keep doing what they were doing? Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're trying to stay on that bottom line, that comfort zone, the performance to results. They're trying to keep doing what they've always done because changing is making them uncomfortable. So, but once we figure out where we want to go, then we can employ change management because we're going to need to change things. So we're going to do a little bit different building the case for change. So I'm going to skip over that and we'll cover the building the case for change exercise when we get to the overview of the application assignment. But that brings us to our second inside moment, and this is going to be Mari. So I will let Mari take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. I first want to acknowledge, like, it's amazing to see all this group of leaders in here, like, taking the time to not only volunteer with your local chapters, but also to learn and continue to grow. It just shows, like, the true value of what you're doing. So thank you so much, especially to our coaches as well. Earlier today, we were talking about the why. Why are we saying yes to all these other additional things in addition to our full-time jobs, in addition to our lives, families and friends? There's a lot of value in volunteering and giving back, and definitely it will be returning great value to all of you. And I do love how Rick is presenting that mindset shift from champion to leader. I think that's something a lot of us experience in our daily jobs or when we go through transitions, especially when you're a frontline worker or somebody in a mid-level management role and then transitioning into a higher leadership role. You want to continue stepping in, continue to helping people within your team by doing the job, being there present. But sometimes that shift is needed to develop others, especially when you're trying to help them grow. And so a personal story that happened to me, I was a frontline worker that many years ago in my department. I was really good at what I did. I was passionate about helping people, having that daily face-to-face interaction with customers, colleagues. But then I was promoted to supervisor, which was great. But I found myself in a position where I was responsible for not only doing the work, but also leading and developing my team. So I was in that in between, and in my mind, I was justifying being there present, helping out because I said they're short staffed. I need to be present. I need to show them that I can also do the work. But at the same time, I was not leading them by developing strategies, things that actually would help them be better at their jobs and continue to grow. So having that realization, that moment was definitely pivotal for me to grow as a leader. And that mindset shift that Rick is talking about was crucial to me. I had to change that mentality of jumping in and doing the work and started to focusing on actually what would help my team, being strategic, developing systems, supporting them in ways that would help them be better. And so over time, the shifts change, and I have been able to implement it in my roles with as a volunteer leader. And that's something you'll see here that everybody who is here has led one of their chapters. And that is actually harder because these are volunteers that are busy with other things. So how can we make it easier, better for them? And that's what Rick is trying to help us. What is in it for them as well? So always remembering our why. Why are we here? Why do we want to do this? And that's what truly brings value to what we're doing. So just wanted to thank Rick for that because it really makes a difference.
Excellent. Thank you, Marty. And I love that. I'm the kind of king of justification. And one of the big justifications I always saw is that, I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything I'm not willing to do. And I use that to kind of give me free license to keep doing those things. Some of the things that I probably shouldn't. We'll talk when we talk about this next tool, this use of time index, about how we spend our time, because time is truly your most valuable asset. And are you spending it in a way that's going to help you achieve your vision? Or are you trying to keep doing champions type stuff? I got a story. So stick to the end. You'll hear a great story about bananas. So I'm just going to kind of preview that, give you a little teaser. But the use of time index is a way of analyzing your time, and it builds off this Covey's time management grid. So one of the greatest things Thomas Covey did, or Stephen Covey, is this time management grid. Now, I first read it when I was an accountant, and I looked at this and I said, okay, I can work on things that are not important or that are important, and things that are either urgent or not urgent. And I said, okay, I spend most of my time in the urgent and important quadrant. And I thought, that's where I should be spending my time. We got month end close. I mean, why should I work on something that's not urgent yet? So what that led me to do was to procrastinate. And what I realized through reading the book and looking at the 7 habits, which all kind of come from this time management grid, like being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, all of that stuff, is to shift some of your time into the important, not urgent category. If we can get more time we spend in this quadrant, the more effective we are, because I'm not trying to race it. So just take, for example, if I have to do performance evaluations for my employees, and we do it on a calendar, we do everybody the same month. So I have 13 of them to do. If I'm doing it from the urgent and important quadrant, I'm doing it to check the box. I have these things I got to check off my to-do list. Check the box activities aren't as rich or meaningful as those activities I do when it's not check the box, when I'm doing it to do because this is a great way to give people feedback and a way to help people get better. Urgent and important is addictive. It's firefighting. It's just getting it done. And, it's like, how big a fire can I build and still be able to pull it out? And the only way to figure that out is to build one so big you can't put it out. So it is addictive. So it takes a little effort to break out of that and spend more time in this important, not urgent category. We love this model, but we took it a step farther for leaders. So we said, yeah, it's important, but we want to make sure it's strategically important. Leaders should be working on things of high strategic value rather than things of low strategic value. Some low strategic value things are vitally important. They're just not strategically valuable. And then are you uniquely qualified, or should you be finding somebody else to do it? And we could talk a little bit about delegation here in a minute, but just suffice it to say, every leader I know has been told that they need to learn to delegate, and that's not true. My daughter, she's 17 now, but she's been delegating to me since she was 4, and she never took a class. She did not have to learn anything. You know how to delegate. What you suffer from is people that are equipped to delegate to. Your people aren't ready yet. So you're afraid, or you don't trust that they're going to get it right, and you're afraid that it's going to take more time. Well, guess what? Initially it is. It's going to be an investment of your time, because what we need to learn is and get better at is how to develop people. Because if you delegate without developing, you're really just dumping, and you're skipping right over that. So delegation without development is dumping. And what this model is going to do is help you identify the things you should be delegating. And then so you can then develop develop people so that they're ready to do that. So we're going to jump into the uh, application overview here in a second. But just to wrap up, just to kind of uh, put a bow on this morning, uh, tell me, what have we established so far? Just put it in the chat. What have we established? What did we talk about today? All right, clear as kind. I like that. Put that there. Explaining the why. Mindset matters. Leadership. Excellent. All right, being a leader, not just a champion. Excellent. Reading through that, champions versus leaders, important leadership having the why behind the action. Excellent. I want to make sure that there's a couple of things I want to make sure that are clear. In the future results, performance. Very good. Go leadership, take everyone lead. Excellent. So what the importance of evidence strategy, we're getting there. Why is leadership important? Why does leadership matter? You said at the very beginning, and I'm going to hammer on this. We'll talk about it again at the beginning of the next session. Why does leadership matter? To get better results? Yes, because you want more. Remember that. If you don't want more, leadership's not all that important. You just keep doing what you're doing. You keep getting what you're getting, and if nothing changes, nothing changes. Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you guys. This lets me know this is the old school trainer in me, making sure that what I mean to say is getting through, right? Because I got to be honest with you, in my head, all of this is genius. But when it comes out of my mouth, sometimes not so much. And I recognize that. And it's even particularly hard in the digital world when we're doing this through Zoom, because I can't see all y'all's faces, and I can't see who's falling asleep. And in a in-person classroom, I can kind of track it a little better. But the next thing we're going to do is talk about the 2 application exercises, and I'm going to just jump to the actual tools themselves. But before I do that, are there any final questions or comments about anything that we've talked about? Okay. Well, we will jump to the tools themselves. And first thing we're going to look at is the building the case for change. And this is really getting your personal vision down. And then we'll look about how we're going to spend our time in order to achieve that vision. So let's do that. It's sometimes hard to make good leaders out of champ. Yeah, I mean, if some people don't want to. My wife is really good at what she does. I'm just very impressed. She's got the hardest work ethic. And in most organizations she's been at, she's the champion and they want her to take a leadership role. And she's like, no, people are messy. I really don't want to do that. And if you don't have a passion for developing people and a passion for helping people get to the next level and get what they want out of life, if that's not your passion, the difference in pay ain't worth it because people are messy. So you've got to get in that mindset that this is what you want to do. And I got to tell you, every 100 people I run through a leadership development program, I probably get three that say, you know what? I've learned through this whole process, the number one thing I learned is I don't want to lead people. And I'm like, that's a win. Let's get you back into the champion mode because champions are important. So, building the case for change. Your first step as a leader is to set direction. This is going to be setting direction for your span of control. So, you put today's date in here. Time horizon, you get to pick. This is a great time of year to do this. You can say by the end of the year, what do you want to be true? And then you put your name here. So step one is to take stock of your current situation. And excuse my language, but I always like to start with what's really irritating or pissing me off. So if I put these things that I don't like about my life as it is right now and just document them, don't try to kind of solution for them at this point. Just say, what is it that you're frustrated by? A lot of the people I coach, some of them are having to work nights and weekends, and they're frustrated by the fact that they can't eat dinner with their family, or they're missing time and they can't get to their kids' baseball game. Put that down. If you want to put personal stuff in here, is that this is for you and for your span of control, and it is your personal vision. So, taking stock of the current situation, what are your irritations and frustrations? And we've modified this from what we did last year because step two then is you can jump straight to vision. Your vision can be simply what does life look like if you get rid of the stuff that's ticking you off, the stuff that's frustrating you. So, in the previous example, 6 months from now, I'm able to eat dinner with my family every night. 6 months from now, I'm not having to work weekends. Now, the first thing that jumps into most of our minds when I write that down is, how am I going to do that? And I will say to you, don't worry about it. That's the next step. After I get my vision, then I figure out what has to change on the performance side of the equation to get there. But unless I have a vision, unless I've determined that's what I want the future to look like, I'm never going to come up with an idea how to get there. So you might have an idea of what you want to be true in the future, and you have no idea. You're like your mind's probably going to tell you that's never going to happen. Ignore that because it's never going to happen until I decide that's what I want to achieve. And hopefully that makes sense. But I spent a lot of my life taking what people gave me, right? I got a job, I became a champion. They gave me a promotion. I'm like, thank you. And then there was no more promotions to make, and I'm like, I'm stuck, and blah blah blah. I never really sat down and figured out what I wanted. So this is your opportunity. You could do it in your personal life, you could do it for your chapter, you could do it, but all for your span of control. And what do you want to be true? What do you want it to look like? So you can intentionally then go out and get it. But the first step is determining what you want. so that you're no longer taking what people give you out of life. You're deciding, and you're going to be intentional about pursuing that. So you really want to focus on the future results, not the performance changes. So if you think about the performance to results model, it's that top right bullet, the future results, where that arrow then goes to performance. Because once I determine this is future results, again, next step is what do I have to change in the performance to get there? Uh, the rest of this is what strengths do you have that you can leverage to achieve that vision? And what weaknesses do you feel you're going to have to overcome in order to get there? So those are internal. So within you, what are your strengths and weaknesses going to help you get to achieve your personal vision? And then opportunities and threats are external. So what are the opportunities out there? What's out there in the market that I can leverage in order to help me get closer to my vision? And what is out there that might keep me from getting there? That's opportunities and threats. If you can't think of anything, leave it blank. Every tool has multiple boxes. Don't feel like you have to fill in every box. There's hint number one. For those of you that are high C's or S's, get over it. There's boxes that don't need to be filled. Don't feel like you have to fill up every line. And that's going to be true for the next exercise too. So what I want you to do in this exercise is pick your time horizon, kind of take stock of your current situation. What is it that's irritating you, or things that are suboptimal, things you wish were better? And then what does the world look like if I don't have those things, or if I fix that problem? What strengths and weak strengths I have I can leverage, weaknesses I got to overcome. Are there any opportunities or any threats? Questions about this form? All right. I encourage you to take a stab at this within the next few days, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to get, what I just said is going to recede. So get some thoughts on the fresher it can be, the least likely you're going to have to go back and review it. All right. That is the first tool. The second one is the use of time index, and we talked a little bit about that already. About this is like Covey on steroids. So this for all of you. So the first one is for all you people that like to dream. You're gonna love it. All of you people that like numbers and like really technical stuff, you're gonna struggle usually. Use of time index. If you like numbers and you like technical stuff, you're probably gonna love it. And the people that are dreamers are maybe gonna struggle. So time is your most valuable asset. And you probably heard that. You probably may even said it, but people don't act that way because most of us don't plan or spend our time very diligently. And we often allow people to waste it. If you don't value your time, nobody else will. And what this tool does is it helps you determine, am I spending my time in the right places? So, and it's built specifically for leaders. So we want you to take 15 minutes. And the first thing you want to do is look at your calendar for last week and determine how you spent your time. And here's just some examples. They had these many examples. And then we have letters for you to put those categories and times. So this person, for instance, had project management meetings for 12 hours. They had prospecting activities for 4 hours, etc. The reason we gave you the letters is that after you've captured all your categories and times, and you can do it for a week or for a month, after you captured it all, then you're going to plot it in this 2x2. And you can't, there's not room for everything. So you just put the letter and the number of hours in the appropriate category. So that's the whole reason for the lettering system. If you only have 4 or 5 things, do you have to fill up the rest of these? Absolutely not. If you have more than this many categories, can you add more letters? Absolutely. This is just to get you started. So if you have this many, that's fine. If you don't have this many, that's fine. If you have more, that's fine. You're just going to create more lines. And then you plot it all into this 2x2. And as I mentioned before, Is this value of the activity low strategic value or high strategic value? Now, this is very important. There's two things that will automatically make an activity of high strategic value. Can somebody tell me what you think the two things are? So just take a stab at it. What two things will automatically make something high strategic value? And I'll give you a hint. What am I asking you to create in your first activity that we just covered? Vision. Excellent. Excellent. So if it helps you achieve your vision, automatically, by definition, it's high strategic value, right? It's part of your strategy. Now, what's the second thing? Here's your hint for that. What's the number one role of a leader? What did we say that your most important role as a leader? It's not to inspire, development people. Yeah, create champion behaviors in others. Your number one job is to make people as good or better than you are. So transitioning from champion to leader. So anytime I'm developing people, that's automatically high strategic value. So those are the two things. Anything that helps me achieve my vision, anything that helps me when I'm developing somebody else, those are all get me in the high strategic value. Low strategic value doesn't mean it's not important. And for example, I own my own business and I have to do invoicing every month. Invoicing is important. It's vitally important. If I don't invoice, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid, I no longer have a business. So I have to do this, but it's not strategically valuable. It is operationally valuable. So just because it's important doesn't make it high strategic value. If it helps me achieve or move the needle or get further where I want to go, that's high value. If not, it's low value. The second category is, are you uniquely qualified to do it, or are multiple individuals qualified to do it? Now, my understanding of this has grown over time. So I used to look at it and say, okay, look at people in my department. Am I uniquely qualified? Yeah, I'm the only one that can do it. Or maybe I'm the only one that can do it today. So even if that's true, I might be wanting to flag this to develop somebody else so they can do it in the future. So story that I tell about this is my buddy Sean and I used to have a call every Friday and we would go over my use of time index. And we had a strategy to build the business in the DFW marketplace. He was out of Grand Rapids, so we had a lot of business in Michigan. But when my daughter was born, they all said, you got to build the business in Dallas. So that was one of our strategies. I was the only one that lived in Dallas. So it fell on me to do that. And I spent 20 hours one month developing or working on a marketing plan. So I have my degrees are in accounting and finance. I had no idea how to do a marketing plan. I had to Google what goes into a marketing plan. That's how ignorant I was. And I spent 20 hours just kind of laying the groundwork for that. And so I said, okay, that's high value because it's part of our strategy and I'm uniquely qualified. And as we went through that, Sean said, yeah, explain to me how that belongs in that upper right quadrant. And I said, well, I explained it just like I just did. One of our strategies, I'm the only one here. So he asked me the question. He goes, are you good at marketing plans? And I said, no. I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. And he said, yeah, don't take this the wrong way. But I would say that not only you not uniquely qualified to do a marketing plan, you're not qualified at all to do a marketing plan. And then he asked me, because you're doing a lot of networking, do you ever bump into marketing people? And I said, yes. And do any of them do marketing plans? I said, yes. He goes, okay, for every hour you spend finding that person and hiring them and managing them in the future, I'll give you in this upper right quadrant those hours. For every hour you actually work doing a marketing plan, you at best will be in the upper left quadrant, if not in the lower left quadrant. Hopefully that resonates. The upshot or aha from that is that the person that is uniquely qualified to do that, or may be also uniquely qualified to do that, may not currently reside in your organization. Maybe you're going to have to go get them or outsource it. So I plot all of this into this 2x2 grid, and then you're going to sum up the hours for each quadrant. So all the stuff that's in each of these quadrants, you're going to get for each quadrant, you're going to get the sum of the number of hours, and then you're going to get the total number of hours um, for the whole thing for all four quadrants. And you're going to record the total hours of all quadrants right here. This is where the math comes in. So all your math nerds are going to love this. You're going to get a numerical rating for how well you spend your time. So sum all the hours in this quadrant. For every hour you spend in the upper right-hand quadrant, you get 7 points. For every hour you spend in the upper left, you get 5 points. Lower right, you get 3 points. Lower left, you get 1 point. So you're going to get a total number of points for each quadrant, and you're going to add them all together. So you're going to total of points from all quadrants, total hours for all quadrants, and you're going to divide your total points by total hours, and you're going to get a rating from 1 to 7. If it's below 1 or over 7, you made a mistake. Go back and check your math. Typically, in your first cut through, you're going to be between a 5 and a 6. And you do all of this work to get to this last page. And this last page is where you can create strategies for how do you get a higher rating. So I love it for 2 reasons. I'm a math nerd, number 1, and number 2, I'm very competitive. So if you tell me the highest score I can get is a 7, I'm going to do everything I can to get a 7 on it. So how do you do that? Well, you take everything in the upper right-hand quadrant. You want to do more of that. You want to spend more time in the upper right-hand quadrant. Upper left-hand quadrant, that's the quadrant of delegation. And we mentioned it before, you do know how to delegate. So the first step is figuring out what you're going to delegate. The second step is figuring out to whom are you going to delegate it. And the 3s and the 1s, you want to try to automate or outsource it. For instance, my example of doing the invoicing, my buddy Sean spent 4 hours doing invoicing. He can't not do it, but he found an app. So then instead of 4 hours every month, he only had to spend an hour to do it. So he became more efficient at it. So he got those 3 hours back from doing this. And the last thing I'm going to do, if you guys can hang with me, is I'm going to share a little story I call the banana story, which I gave you the kind of the teaser for. So here's the banana story. In India, monkeys are a really bad problem, especially in the rural areas. They destroy crops, they create all kinds of problems. But from a societal and religious perspective, you can't harm the monkeys. So it's not like Texas farmers would just get a gun and start shooting monkeys. You can't do it. So what they did is they created this ingenious trap where they hollow out a coconut and they put a banana inside. And they tie these coconut traps all over the fences and tree lines, etc. And the monkey will go up and they will see the banana, and the monkey wants the banana, and the monkey will stick his hand in the hole and grab the banana. But the hole's not big enough for the monkey to get his hand and the banana out. All the monkey has to do is let go of the banana. But the monkey will not let go of the banana. And the farmer can just go up, put a burlap sack over the monkey, and take it out into the forest and let it go. You have bananas that you've been holding on to all over your calendar. And this tool, this use of time index, is going to identify what those bananas are so that you can then figure out how do you develop people and develop a plan for letting them go. That's going to be the next step. We have a tool for that, and we'll cover that in the future. But just remember, you want to identify the bananas that you got to let go in order to achieve your personal vision. So with that, I'll kick it to Billy and Marty to see if we have any final words or comments. And looks like
Yes,
we are
it's me.
right on time.
Yes, we did it right on time. Thank you all for making it happen. So just a reminder of what comes next. First of all, you have been assigned an amazing coach. All of them are volunteer leaders. They have done this before. Make sure to schedule a time to meet with them. If for some reason you cannot connect with each other, just let us know. Make sure to complete your assignments and attend our group guided discussions. Those are amazing opportunities. That's where you're actually going to get to engage and learn from each other. And our schedule is already set for the rest of the sessions. You'll get calendar invites. If you haven't, just let us know. But other than that, if you have any questions, need any support throughout this time, we are here for you. And that's all I have. Thank you all so much.